We are officially recording FatHead episode 17. Can you believe that we made 17 episodes?
No. This is exciting, Monty. We're doing something.
It's crazy. We're actually getting people to listen. And I really don't know why. I mean, why would they listen to two buffoons like us?
I don't know.
That's the funniest thing. I mean, that's like a practical joke in itself that they're listening to us.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is Halloween coming up here. Now, do you like Halloween? Is it like one of your favorites?
It's my favorite. It's my favorite holiday.
Even of Christmas and everything?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. So I kind of, for me, it goes like Halloween, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. I'll tell you why. Not because of the meaning of Christmas, just because I feel like Christmas has gotten so commercial, it's not even what it should be.
Yeah. No,
you know, we've totally taken the Christ out of Christmas, I think. That's my opinion, but
well,
you know.
Yeah, we have. I mean, Christmas has become a buyer's, consumer's market, I guess. And
yeah, it's just stressful. It's not that fun to me.
It's not stressful to me because everything I buy is on Amazon. So I literally don't even leave my house to go buy Christmas stuff anymore.
True, which I usually do as well. But yeah,
just order it, and sometimes I even have it sent to where it's going if they're not local.
Mm-hmm.
Just have it wrapped and drop shipped.
Yeah, but what I do love about Christmas is family.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, spending time with my family.
Yeah, absolutely. So why do you like how do you like Halloween so much?
You know, ever since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated with the supernatural. I mean, we've talked about this, how I've had several experiences, and you have too. You know, with the other side, both good and bad. Yeah. But I've been fascinated by it. I love the idea. Like I love the idea in Mexico how they have Dios de los Muertos, how they honor their ancestors, and it's a fun time. But I love that aspect of kind of Halloween, bringing that part into it. But also, I love scary stuff. Yeah, don't you? I love
I guess
ghosts and goblins and ghouls and jump scares, and my brothers and I, we went all out during Halloween, and we would
you would
decorate.
Decorate.
We'd go all out on Halloween. And we'd scare the heck out of kids, and it was so fun.
People in my town are kind of sticks in the mud. We this one year, I live in a small town in rural Iowa, and so this one year we decorated a mannequin, and we put a Bluetooth speaker out by her, kind of like right at her feet, but nobody could see it. And so as people walked past, we would talk to them on this speaker. We would say, "Help, I'm cold. Yeah. Come and rescue me." All kinds of funny things.
Right.
And I did. This was when Periscope was big, and I had like 15, 20,000 Periscope followers at the time, and I live broadcasted on Periscope. And people were just laughing they thought it was the funniest thing ever. But in town, word went around that it was like we were saying bad things and everything, and it's like, what? That's
what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about bad things, but people just didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't like it. They didn't like it. And it was just us. It was just me and my kids really having a good time playing around. That's
interesting. That's kind of the difference between. Yeah, maybe rural Iowa and Northern California, where I grew up, and we'd do crazy stuff. And we'd have like chainsaws, the sounds of chainsaws going, and it was fantastic.
You can take a chainsaw off of a chain, or the saw off of the chain, and it still sounds exactly like a chainsaw. Still revs up, still makes all the noise,
does.
And you could run at people and so. Although in Iowa you might get shot if you do that, but in California you'd probably be safe.
I'd imagine. I'd imagine you'd probably be.
That would be kind of fun. Just
Well, it's kind of expected, yeah.
That would be a blast. Maybe
Totally.
next year, FatHead is going to go chainsaw.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah, I am excited. This is going to be fun, and then I've got this a friend of mine, a young lady friend, who's flying in to come visit for a couple days. We're just going to spend time together. So, yeah, we're going to spend Halloween together, and yeah. Well, I mean, we're friends. We're just friends, and we're kind of feeling everything out.
Yeah.
Exactly, and she's awesome. She's just an amazing woman.
That's
and
cool.
yeah.
Is she anybody?
So we'll see what happens.
Is she anybody famous or anything like Katy Perry or something?
No, I have no desire. No, I have no desire in dating anybody famous.
No,
Anyone in the entertainment industry, I have no desire to date.
Gotcha. Kind of has its own extra baggage.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the baggage that I carry, and the other girls that every single time I've dated a girl who's in the arts in some way, it's just ended up bad. I was engaged to a girl who was she was a professional ballroom dancer. She was on a dance team and everything and all that. Yeah, it just doesn't. When you have two artists, some people make it work. They make it work, but I just had rotten luck with it, I guess.
So change of subject from girls to our guest.
Yo.
So we have Mike Duffy on today.
Come on. I'm just kidding.
Well, you can pretend you have a crush on Mike. Yeah, just pretend you have a crush on Mike.
I do. I love Mike.
Man crush.
I love Mike.
So tell us about him, as if I don't.
Yeah.
I've done a little research, but tell us about him as if we don't know anything.
Yeah. Sure. So Mike Duffy, he and his brother Tim Duffy, they're twin brothers, and they started a film company or television production company called Ugly Brother Studios, and which is funny because they're not ugly.
They're not ugly at all.
They're both sharp-looking dudes.
They're like handsome guys. Yeah.
They're not. No. And they are, and they have together created and produced a lot of reality television shows like the Funny Dance Show, The Shape of Pasta, Top Elf, The Comedy Jam, and one of the big ones is Eat the World with Emeril Lagasse, which they've actually won a daytime Emmy for, which is a phenomenal TV show.
It is. I watched an episode of that just a little while ago, just so I could say that I've watched it, and I actually I'm hooked now. I'm gonna have to watch the rest of it.
Oh yeah, totally. It's fantastic. And Mike is just, both Mike and Tim. We were able to get Mike on this one, but both of them, they're just such good guys.
Do they both live in California?
What's really... They both live in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their studio's in Hollywood, I assume?
Their studio is in the Hollywood area.
Okay.
And they've done a ton together. What's cool is that their logo, if you look it up, Ugly Brother Studios, is an homage to Chris Farley. They're both huge Chris Farley fans, of course, as myself is as well. And let's see. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. My
ADD.
boss was calling.
Squirrels.
ADD, yeah. So their logo is based on Chris Farley. And a funny story. I'll tell a quick funny story. We got a couple minutes. So I'd done a bunch of videos and that were getting millions and millions of views. And one day I get this email and it's like, hey, we really love your work. We'd love to work with you. Tim and Mike Duffy, Ugly Brother Studios. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Ugly Brother Studios? I don't know, man. I was thinking, maybe it's another one of those BYU graduates, who's like, yeah, I've got an entertainment company, and I'd love to work with you, but I can pay you in sandwiches. So I don't know. I wasn't too eager to get back with them.
I agreed to pay you in sandwiches. What's the difference?
Well, that's true. But you make really good sandwiches.
I do.
So So, so but I eventually was like, you know what, just look it up online. So I looked up Ugly Brother Studios and was like, oh my gosh, these guys are
They're
legit.
serious. Yeah.
They're not just like some recent college grads, Yeah, which is great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a recent grad, but kind of past that point of working for free and things like that.
Sure.
I'll still work for free, like we're doing this for free.
Well, Devin Graham told us last week.
$3.
Yeah, Devin Graham told us last week that he still does stuff for free sometimes. So, if Devin does, then I have to rethink my whole business model, and I think I'm going to change it. I think he was right. I think he was absolutely right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think everything is certain things are definitely an investment. I always say that I'll do something if it brings me one of two things. If it brings me money, which is good, that I need to live.
Yeah.
Or if it brings the potential of further work, I'll do that as well. Now, if it's a combination of both of those, then fantastic.
Yeah. That's ideal.
But yeah, anyway, yeah. So
hey, we have Michael Duffy. Yeah, Michael Duffy is waiting in the waiting room. He's ready to come in.
Oh,
so I'm gonna bring him in here.
Let's get him on to be continued.
And I think we are getting him in here. He's connecting to audio. Hey, Michael, if you can hear us, we don't necessarily need your camera on, just in case the bandwidth isn't good. Okay, he's connected to audio, so we don't necessarily need a camera, but he's got a camera on anyway. Welcome.
Yeah, look at you, Christian.
Look at you, dude. You're looking good.
Too, brother.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Awesome. So glad to have you on.
Glad to be here.
I just did an intro of how much I love you.
Love is real, right back in your direction, brother.
I've determined that Christian has a man crush on you. Totally.
I'll take any crushes that are pointed in my direction.
There you go.
Well, awesome, Mike. Dude, seriously, thanks. I know you're super busy. Thanks for coming on and doing this with us. I might go off camera here because, man, I'm up in Montana and bandwidth is horrible.
Okay.
Well, welcome to our podcast. I'm actually talking to you from a coffee shop because my studio has plumbers and drywallers working in it right now. So I decided to bail out of there and find a coffie shop.
Awesome. You guys do video? Do you post video as well for your podcast?
Yeah, we usually do. We usually put it on YouTube if the bandwidth is good enough. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to do whatever you guys want to do. You tell me what works for you guys.
You're here. That's the most important thing.
All right. I'm glad to be here, guys.
Yeah. So, Mike, I gave an intro to those who are listening and talked about you and Tim starting Ugly Brother Studios and some of the shows that you've done, that you won an Emmy for Eat the World with Emeril Lagasse, and I started to tell the story about your logo. Tell me really quick. I know that's you and I have a mutual love of Chris Farley.
Chris Farley, yeah. We wanted to. Chris Farley, I think, is probably. I would say that he's one of the top influences on me as far as wanting to get into entertainment. His physical comedy, in particular, really spoke to me in the 90s when I first saw him. And, I also really loved his sort of, non-traditional body type. It was something I really could relate to as somebody who's kind of always struggled with weight. And, I felt like Chris Farley, he lived that kind of rock star life, and obviously we lost him too soon. I remember when he died, I literally burst out into tears. I saw it coming for a while. Same. And we saw his kind of, his fall into, you know, really, really being unhealthy, clearly being, you know, addicted to multiple substances, but also just really treating himself very poorly. And
The spiral was apparent even if as you watched his movies and stuff like that.
absolutely, and he always
Yeah.
said that he modeled himself after John Belushi, which you know was a self-fulfilling prophecy, which
Mm-hmm.
really was hard to watch. But you know, I when we launched Ugly Brother, we wanted our own logo. We wanted to reflect the kind of underdog. Our company was named. My brother and I are twins, and our company was actually named by our cousin, who was really stoned one night, and he goes, "You know, what would be cool is like, because you guys are twins. When you start a company one day, you should just call it Ugly Brother, and then people will be like, which one's the ugly brother?" And we could like point at each other, right? And it was, you know, we all laughed, but I was like, that's actually a really good idea. Um, but we knew that like our audiences wouldn't know that we're twin brothers and that we're co-founders of this company. So we wanted to have
Mm-hmm.
an ugly brother as part of our logo. The idea of an underdog who's non-traditional, creative, unkempt, and just fun-loving, and throws up the thumbs up. You know, so that's where the Ugly Brother logo came from.
Oh yeah.
Christian said, "Hey, we're gonna have this guy on. He's from Ugly Brother Studio." So I went and did all my research on you, and I looked at your website. I was like, "Dude, those guys aren't ugly guys. So those are handsome guys." And I was trying to figure out what the Ugly Brother was about. So
Well, that's
thanks for the
very kind of you.
clarification.
We don't see what you see, but I'll take it. And the truth of the matter is that it really is about the you know, that sort of ugly duckling. You know, the idea of none of us are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the things that make us different are the things that are interesting about us, and we love that underdog story. We love working in entertainment and trying to tell stories of people who overcome great odds, and that's really the spirit of what Ugly Brother tries to incorporate into, you know, everything we do.
Well, you know, you guys were talking about Chris Farley, and Chris Farley wouldn't have been Chris Farley without his stature, without his weight, without his size. I don't think that he would have been the same person and been able to pull off the same physical comedy. Do you agree with that?
You know, I actually don't agree with that. I find that once a fat kid, always a fat kid. Even when you lose the weight. You know, in my own life, I've, you know, gained weight, lost weight, gained it back, and all that. And you just always, no matter what, you look in the mirror and you see that, you know, the fat kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of us use that, you know, as a way to make fun of ourselves before somebody else makes fun of us. And
Right.
then that evolves into that sort of hedonic pleasure of getting laughs. But I personally believe, you know, you look at somebody like Anthony Anderson, he stars on Blackish right now, and he was a heavy-set actor.
Yeah, he lost a ton of weight. I saw him in a commercial, and wow, it didn't even look like him hardly. It looked like him with a huge head.
Yeah, and like we're buddies with Al Roker, right? Al Roker's a guy who struggled with his weight his whole career as well. And the truth of both Al Roker and Anthony Anderson, and even to some extent Jonah Hill, who has also gone through his own weight loss journey
Mm-hmm.
and gain, is that they're all still who they are. Now, I wouldn't put any of them in the category of Chris Farley as a physical comedian. And I think that his stature absolutely helped him with his physical comedy. But I would put him up there with Chevy Chase in terms of being a physical comedian. It just so happened that he used his, you know, his body type as a sort of wardrobe. But I think that if he would have lost weight, he would have still had the great success and would still be around today.
Crushing the coffee table just wouldn't be the same from a little stick figure, you know.
So true. So true. It's like when Chase, though, did his pratfalls, you know, and he fell off the ladder and all that. Like, there's just something about that great physical comedy that, you know, and Christian, you're a great physical comedian as well.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
You know, there's that thing that they make it work no matter what. So I believe Chris Farley, if we had been blessed to, you know, get more of him and he would have lost weight, I think he would have just kind of reinvented himself and found other ways to be a great physical comedian.
Yeah, which you and I, Mike, we've talked about, Tim and I, about, you know, me losing weight and still being, you know, funny.
See, I think Christian. Now, I think Christian is Chris Farley reincarnated, only a little later. So I think he still has it in him.
We agree.
I love Chris Farley. Well, we just had Tom Arnold on. I don't know if you knew that, Mike. And
no.
Yeah, awesome. We had Tom, and Tom wants to come on again. And you know, we talked about, you know, his relationship with Chris as well. And oh my gosh, and how I met Tom. When I went to the, it was Tim that you didn't go. I don't remember. I don't think you did do the This Is Chris, or I Am Chris Farley premiere.
Oh yeah, that's right. The guys, I wasn't at that. Was I? God, I should know that. Yeah, I remember the event. We know the directors really well.
It would have been in 2015, I think, wasn't it? 2015, 2016?
Something like that,
yeah.
Now, Mike, you started off in well, and you've done stand-up comedy for years.
Yeah, I quit stand-up in 2001, but you know, I had. Yeah, I started out as a stand-up comic. I grew up in musical theater, and I, you know, always hello, Dolly. I was in.
So was I.
Were you? Nice.
Yeah,
I was.
Yeah.
Cornelius Hackle.
Oh my gosh, I was the head waiter. I forgot his name.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, musical theater was great. And it was like, you know, the expression in musical theater, it's so emotional. It really taught me that in storytelling, if you can make your audience really feel something, that you're on to something. And it's something I took into stand-up comedy when I moved out to LA in 1999. I had this, you know, this sort of stage fright. I'd grown up in musical theater. I did it in high school and college. I briefly studied it as a major in college before I came to my senses and went to journalism. But you know, somehow I'd put on a bunch of weight, and I came out to LA, and I kind of lost my confidence and especially my stage presence. And I knew that I always wanted to get into entertainment, but I wasn't exactly sure how, whether I was, you know, a performer or a writer or a producer. And so I decided, you know what, let me just face this fear head on, because it was something that I kind of grew into, this fear of getting on stage and being in front of people. And I never had it as a kid. So I decided to face it head on and started doing stand-up. And I became, you know, obsessed with it. I did it 6 or 7 nights a week, multiple shows a night. And actually within a year, I became a regular at the Comedy Store, which was a huge...
that's what made almost everybody out there. I mean, Jay Leno was made at the Comedy Store.
I mean, Jay Leno, Letterman, you know, but modern, you know, Bill Burr, Chappelle, you know, like there's so many, you know, Sebastian Maniscalco, like, there's so many great stand-ups who've come out of the store. I was in a class, you know, the story that is ridiculous about my time at the Comedy Store was I became a regular. Mitzi Shore, who's the founder of, you know, famous founder of the Comedy Store, she basically divorced Pauly Shore's dad and got the Comedy Store in the divorce settlement. And she really turned it into what the Comedy Store is known as today, which is like it's the world famous Comedy Store. I mean, it is arguably the center of the universe when it comes to stand-up comedy. So I had come in 1999 and started working at the Comedy Store. At the time, they allowed, you know, comedians to kind of run the cover booth, you know, to check IDs at the front door and to set up shows in the belly room and the original room and the main room, which are the three venues within the Comedy Store. And it was this like, you know, master class in comedy culture, and where we'd watch each other and then we'd get up on stage and try new material out. The smart and dumb thing that I did as a stand-up comic was I did new material every night. I wrote every single day, and I would get up and I would sort of riff. Yeah, and it gave me my writer's voice, and it gave me that confidence that I was looking for. And so I was shocked that I got passed by Mitzi when she passed me in the original room in the spring of 2000. No, actually that was 2001. Now I say it, because 9/11 happened right after that, and that's when you know, all hell broke loose. But you know, so it was the spring of 2001. She passed me. I became what's called a non-paid regular, which meant that I would work the cover booth and be like a bouncer, and they would give me very, very minuscule pay, and I would get some stage time whenever somebody, you know, had an extra slot on their show. I would get stage time. So I got to perform in the original room and in the belly room. I never got to do the main room when I was there. But here's the twist, right? So, you know, 9/11 happens. It's October of 2001. We're all kind of reeling from, you know, what just happened. There was this major loss of innocence. I remember, you know, we didn't know whether or not it was appropriate to get back on stage. And then finally, you know, less than a week went by, and we all just said, let's do it. Let's get back on stage. Let's try to bring some sense.
I remember that. Even the late night hosts were hesitant to tell jokes just because they didn't feel that was the time to tell jokes. And the whole country, the whole nation was feeling the same exact way.
Absolutely. I mean, it was like the first time in our memories that something happened to all of us. You know, and then here we are in pandemic. Very different experiences. 9/11 unified us. Pandemic has divided us. But back then, it was a reckoning of what we're all here for. You know, the sort of reality check that we're not as safe as we think we are, and that this idea of the American persona is foul. And so we wrestled with that as comedians. So the long story short is, you know, we put up a show, we kept doing our thing. We were all very much, you know, fundamentally changed by what happened on 9/11. And, you know, Mitzi comes into the store one night. She comes up, I'm at the cover booth at the original room. She comes up to me and she goes, who the fuck are you?
Are you serious?
Yes. And I said, Mitzi, I'm Mike Duffy. You made me a regular 6 months ago. You told me that you really like my twin material. And she goes, no, I don't remember you. You need to
What?
You need to retest. And so, and she then went on, she went throughout the store and she did that to like 4 or 5 other comics who were all part of my class that got passed, and we all had to retest.
No way.
Now, you know, what obviously has come out since then is that Mitzi Shore suffered from dementia, and this was like, been facing it for several years. Yeah, I didn't know this at the time.
So she wasn't messing with you. She just honestly didn't remember passing you.
You know, that's the question. I've asked some of my classmates of the same thing, but basically we know dementia had set in at that point, but she was known to really mess with people. Like Duncan Trussell, I know, took him a long, long time to get passed as a regular. You know, there's a bunch of other comics that, you know, that they still wonder whether or not it was her messing with us or just being, you know, the sort of a dementia patient. Either way, I had come to a point in my life and my career where I just thought, you know what, I don't I was working at Tales from the Crypt Productions during the day.
Oh, no way.
The old HBO series.
Yeah, the HBO series. My girlfriend and I watched that every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge in the 90s, and I kind of came in when they were making the movies, right? So I worked for Walter Hill, David Giler, Robert Zemeckis, and of course Joel Silver. He was the managing partner. And so during the day, I was like casting pilots, and I was, working on some movies at a very low level. And I just one day kind of looked in the mirror and said, I wouldn't put you in anything. Which sounds really negative, but it was actually just a moment of truth that I realized. I said, I don't have the hunger to be the performer on camera or on stage. The reason I've done this is so that I could really incorporate it into my skills as a producer and help people more talented than myself, be featured on camera and on stage. So that,
how do you describe that hunger to be either on camera or off camera? I mean, if somebody is struggling and questioning themselves in that, how would you describe the epiphany you came to? I mean, what was that moment like?
Yeah, it was a sort of a feeling that I had for several months leading up to it. And then oddly 9/11 happened, and it just really forced me and like anyone else to kind of look at life and go, what am I here for? So I'd been thinking about it for a while, and so sometimes there's a tipping point, right, that happens in life. The universe provides it to you, and that tipping point was Mitzi Shore telling me that I had to retest. And I thought, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to retest. It was a very dark time at the Comedy Store. Joe Rogan was there, Andrew Dice Clay, Eddie Griffin. There was a lot of very dark comics there who had big negative energy. And Carlos Mencia was there. He later got, ostracized for stealing material. It was just a very dark time. And I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I wanted to kind of keep going toward the light rather than the darkness. And so quitting stand-up for me was that moment when Mitzi told me I needed to retest. I thought, I've never been one to, bow down to authority. That's just not in my nature. And I had put in the work, and I just thought, you know what, I'm out. This is a sign that I need to get out. So I did a few more shows. In fact, the last show that I did was a small bar on Lincoln in Venice Beach. It was just this random night performing at a show that it was raining out, which happens never here in California, in LA at least. And I had 3 comedians. I used to produce comedy shows, so that was part of how I would get more stage time. Is I would produce shows, trade stage time with other producers, and I was putting myself up. And this one night that it happened to rain in LA, 3 out of the 5 comedians I booked didn't show up, so I had to perform a 45-minute set, and I did, and I crushed it. It was my best show ever. Literally in a contained environment that was like jam-packed with people who got out of the rain and they couldn't go anywhere. And I just thought, you know what, this is it. Let me go balls to the wall. And I did. I had an amazing show, and I thought, that's it. That's my last show. I want to go out on that feeling.
Definitely went out with a bang then. Yeah, I've only seen it rain one time in LA. Only one time I've ever been there that I see rain. So it's very unusual.
Yeah, very, very weird night. Weird set of memories too. That whole period.
Dude. Did you ever have like one of those nights where it was just you bombed so bad?
Yes, Christian. Let me tell you. So the show before the show I just told you about. It was on my birthday, 2001. Okay, December 6th, 2001. I created a show with my friend Jamie Kaler, who's a successful comedian, a sitcom actor, still one of my best buddies. We created this show called Character Comedy. You'll really appreciate this, Christian. And it was
Okay.
the idea was comedians doing their characters in a stand-up setting, right? So the rules of this game were you can do whatever character you want. It's not a sketch. You're stepping on stage in character, delivering a stand-up set. Okay. So several of the comedians, and it was like an exploratory underground comedy show, right? And several of the comedians brought multiple characters. So did I.
Sounds very Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, it was very Andy Kaufman, and it was very much like inhabit the character and see where that goes, right? Almost like method acting, right? And so, again, it was my birthday, and I had a buddy of mine worked for Adam Sandler at Happy Madison, and he calls me on the way to the show, and he goes, "Hey, I just was leaving the office," and Adam was like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm going to meet my buddy Mike Duffy for a comedy show. He's got this underground comedy show going on called Character Comedy." And Adam Sandler goes, "Oh yeah, I want to come with you." So I'm like, "Wait, so Adam Sandler's on the way?" What are you talking about?
Wow.
Like, yeah, we're coming.
That's epic.
It was not good for me because, you know, I had chosen these I chose two characters, right? I chose a character called Carlton Lepre, he was like one of those like late night self-help gurus, and his whole pitch was you can be an LA weatherman because there's never weather in LA, so you can just lie your way through it. That went over okay. It was a good character. Decent. There was some gems in there. However, the other character did not go over well. So in order to give you a sense of what the character was, I have to tell you, I mentioned that I worked at Tales from the Crypt, and around this time in the fall of 2001, we were shutting down Tales from the Crypt. We had made our last movie, and the partners decided to disband the brand and let it go dormant. And so my job was to go to this giant stage where they had stored all of the set pieces and costumes from the entire series, plus some of the partners' films. So Zemeckis' films and Joel Silver's films.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, it was like this amazing
treasure trove. That would be a treasure trove. Yeah.
It was like, I remember that movie House on Haunted Hill? That was super scary Joel Silver movie. They had like the torture chamber there, and I was like, oh man.
What?
So anyway, I open up this costume closet, and in this closet is this giant Marge Simpson tall style wig that had been painted to look like the Stars and Stripes, the U.S. flag. And I go, oh my God, I have to figure out a way to use that. So I started thinking about it, and again, 9/11 had just happened, and so I created this character that wore a turban and had a you can guess where this is going. I named the character Al Qaeda.
Oh no!
Oh no!
And Al Qaeda's story was he had joined the Taliban just because he wanted to belong to a club, not because he radicalized. And when 9/11 happened, he was really upset by it. He thought he was just joining like a club with some buddies. He didn't know they were a terrorist organization.
This is like the Rotary Club, right? I mean,
exactly. So he defected to the U.S. And he wasn't accepted in the U.S. either, as you might imagine. So I wore like a turban and like the traditional dress, and I had burned the back of the robes to make it look like I was running away from an exploded bomb.
Oh no!
And I had a turban on, and when I took the turban off, it was the really tall wig that was painted like the U.S. flag. Well, let me tell you guys, December of 2001, after 9/11, a character called Al Qaeda does not go over well.
I can't imagine the thinking that it even might go over well. I just trying to imagine that.
Well, you're welcome.
I don't know. My weird sense of humor. I would have been dying.
Now, a month or two later, maybe.
Yeah, well, it was too. So that's the thing. So Adam Sandler comes up to me after the show.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, buddy, listen, I applaud your courage, but it's just too soon. It's too soon."
Oh my goodness, from Adam Sandler. Oh no.
So that was my penultimate comedy show ever. The show after that was a straight stand-up show. I did really well in that show, and I thought I'm going to go out on a high rather than the deep, dark low of Al Qaeda.
Are there any pictures or video evidence of this character named Al Qaeda?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I don't think so.
I would pay to see those. If anybody's listening and looks them up, I will give $5 a piece for pictures.
I would pay to destroy them.
Just to destroy him. Yeah. Hey, I was gonna say, Mike, I did stand up the one or two times I did stand up. I was in Salt Lake City, and it kind of reminds me what you were talking about, the character thing. And I did this character who was totally self-deprecating. You know, every joke didn't land, and he just beat the crap out of himself. And in order to pass the time, he would make balloon animals out of condoms, but they never. But they were always, he could never make them, so he would just name them like an albino turtle or an albino owl. It was
so they were kind of like the Elephant Man condoms, like they never really took shape of an animal.
No, they didn't. They just took the shape of a blown up condom.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Well, at least you had the visuals of wrapping your mouth around a condom to benefit your audience.
Yes.
Anything
well, and in
for
Salt
a laugh.
Lake, it was yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and in Salt Lake, I did it because I knew everyone was so that would make waves in Salt Lake.
Well, I'm sure that the Mormon audience,
yes,
they've never seen condoms, right? So,
right? No, I mean, what are those? Hey, so what, Mike? How did you go from stand up into? I mean, you talked about that was your high. You left there, and you were like, I'm going to produce. And then you and Tim, when did you formalize Ugly Brothers, and what was the first production that you guys did?
Well, there was a long time between becoming a producer in 2001 and launching Ugly Brother in 2014. You know, my brother and I really early on decided to kind of go by choice down two separate paths. He went down the executive path, gaining experience as a network executive. We always knew that would be tremendously valuable for one day when we started our company. I stayed independent as a producer and as a show creator. I did do some stints as an executive at various companies along the way, but generally I've stayed as a show creator throughout my whole career. And the first show that I created was actually, my brother was a network executive at Game Show Network. And at the time, Jamie Kennedy Experiment had come out, and this sort of resurgence in hidden camera. And I knew that I loved that. And I thought, you know what, this thing called reality TV, like there's something about telling true stories. You know, it was a time when it was kind of the wild, wild west, and you could kind of create a log line and sell it pretty quickly. And I was lucky enough to do that. I had quit stand-up comedy, and I wanted to find my new path. And so I took some time off. I went on unemployment. I quit the job working for Joel Silver after he shut down, you know, the Tales from the Crypt Studios. And so I just kind of had a lot of time on my hands. Somebody had told me that if you want to be a writer or a creator, you got to write. You got to create. And so I took that really seriously, and I I stopped working for pay, took my unemployment checks, and I literally just spent almost every day, all day writing, creating, ideating, learning the craft of pitching, figuring out how to put ideas on paper. And I came up with this idea called Game Over, which was, I had worked on some game shows as a production assistant at that point. I knew that when you're a contestant on a game show, everything you do from the time you arrive at the studio to the time you leave that night is under the watchful eye of a producer. You are literally not allowed to interact with people. They dictate everything that you're supposed to do and who you're supposed to talk to. So I thought, well, that's a captive audience. What can I do in a hidden camera environment to really exploit that for comedy? And so I created Game Over, which was after game show contestants won on a game show. At the time, it was Lingo and a show called Funny Money. They went into a green room that was outfitted with hidden cameras, and I would basically just send characters in. Christian, you would have been amazing on the show. But so I created the show Game Over. I pitched it out. The network said yes to it. They gave me a very small amount of money to make a pilot. The pilot tested really well. I got picked up to series, and I had made myself a promise that at 26, I was going to try to sell my first show before I turned 27. And I did. I sold it a few months shy of my 27th birthday, and I was able to convince the network, to let me direct it, executive produce it, write the whole thing. And it was, it was an amazing experience to get a show from pilot to series. Then the show did well, but the network rebranded after that. For a few years after that, they stopped doing game shows, which was weird. But it was this extraordinary experience. It gave me a taste of what it's like to create a show, see my name in the created by credit, and also just, execute on a vision. And that has kind of defined what I've done ever since, just creating shows, helping, as my journalism professor in college taught me, helping the blind man see, letting them, really feel the idea and, conveying confidence in it and a clear vision that would, encourage them to invest in it. And that literally to this day is the same thing. We have a show on Nickelodeon called Top Elf that I just shot the second season. It was a big hit in the first season. It's I made an exclusive deal with the real Santa to bring children to the North Pole for the first time. And that show is a full circle moment for me, because every aspect of it is something that I, picked and chose and envisioned and was able to execute on this completely immersive world that is inspired by the mythology of Christmas. That's what got me, back in the day, Game Over, that hidden camera show, gave me a taste for creating shows. And, about 12 years later is when Tim and I launched Ugly Brother. And our focus with Ugly Brother has been on the 4 things that matter the most to us, that justify us taking time away from our kids, which is comedy, music, food, and family programming. And ever since we did that, we haven't looked back.
I love it. That's awesome.
What advice would you give somebody that might want to be your competition someday?
The same advice that somebody gave me, which is just create. You can't, if you want to be a show creator, you have to create in volume. You have to create, one show after the other, after the other, after the other. And you have to finish, you got to finish strong. Like whenever you're writing something or creating something, you have to be driven to finish telling that story and then be okay putting it on a shelf until you're ready to pitch it. It took me 6 years to sell. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it took me 6 years to sell Top Elf. I created it right around the time when we launched the company. And, every year I would pitch it and people go, oh, it's great. I love it, blah, 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 but we're not doing Christmas programming, or, you know what, it's it's the summer. I don't want to think about it or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And just, it took me that long to sell it. But, you know, once you create, the beauty of it is once you create something, it's created, it's real. And then you just put it in your back pocket for when you're meeting a network executive, or on a shelf for when you're ready to take your next wave out. You just keep pushing. That's the best way to do it. Just keep going.
You know, that's one thing. Todd Hoffman, the guy that started Gold Rush, is a friend of mine, and he said that the hardest thing to do is pitch, is to get the pitch, is to actually get the time with an executive and to get the pitch, which, you know, he eventually did, and it was successful. But he's had some other ones after that, you know, even after Gold Rush, he's had a hard time getting the time to pitch the new ideas.
Yep. Yeah. It's
a process,
it's a business. Yeah. And it's a marketplace, right? And so
Yeah.
you always have to be market driven, but somehow transcend that as well. Give them something they didn't realize they were asking for. It's hard to do. You know, a lot of producers have done a lot of success being derivative of other successes, other people's successes. There was a good 10-year period there where it was like storage hunters, you know, locker hunters, you know, these like storage wars. I mean, just like endless sort of derivatives of each other.
Aren't those still on? I think, aren't those still somewhat successful? Because I watch them every once in a while on rerun.
Absolutely. Huh. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, getting in the right room at the right time, the right network executive, and making that person really see it.
Well, you mentioned, Mike, about that, you know, sometimes, you know, executive doesn't like they like, excuse me, they like your idea, but it's maybe not the right time. So a lot of it is timing, would you say? In pitching some, I know I sold a show to Fox, and it still has never seen the light of day, but, and I'm sure, how often do you find that, you know, that they'll start with a project of yours and, you know, not go with it, or that it sits in developmental hell? Does that happen? You guys?
It does. I would say 99% of the shows that we pitch do not get sold. And then 1% that do get sold, they then have probably a 60-40 chance of not getting made. You know, so that the odds are really, really, really small to find success, to get on air. You know, I've been lucky enough to create 20 shows that have gotten on air in my career. Yeah. And they're, you know, some are, you know, hits, and then the rest aren't. It's just the nature of it. So even when you make it on air, you can't guarantee it's going to be success. But the key is just, you know, like I said, just, you know, keep going. Like that project that you have at Fox, you know, you should feel validation that you were able to get something sold, recognized. You can't control what happens after it
right.
You know, gets picked up. So the key is to then create, you know, 3 times as much right after that, right? And just keep going out to market so you can improve your odds. It's like anything else, like a batting average. You know, the more at bats you get, you know, the better your shot at actually getting a hit. Your average is low.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's
yeah,
good.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah. That's good info. Absolutely.
I think it's important to recognize, you know, your hopes, your dreams, your limitations, and where that all sits in a marketplace, right? How can you be honest with yourself? This is why I say, like, when you do sell something, it's a validation. So that should add fuel to your fire, to your creative fire. And if you can do that and just keep going, it's going to pay off, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I believe that. With you know, a project that I cannot mention right yet, Mike, I've talked to you about, but exciting stuff. We just picked up a big showrunner for it.
Is that the Al-Qaeda project?
That's the Al-Qaeda project. I think it's about time. I don't think it's too soon. I think it's
You should check with Adam Sandler though, just to make sure.
yeah. We've got a meeting with him later.
I've got his number if you want to call him.
Well, Mike, we're about at that time. We don't want to take you away for too long.
Yeah, we're at an hour and 8 minutes. Wow.
We're at
your busy day.
Oh, I only have 44 minutes. I'm sorry. I thought you guys had some time before me, right? So I'm like,
we talk about you behind your back before the podcast, before we bring you on. Most of it was good. Yeah, most of it was good.
Hopefully there's some fan art that can bring Al Qaeda to life. Let me know. Guys, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be a guest on your show, and
it's an honor to have you on. If you would like to share it, it would be awesome too. You don't have to, but we're trying to grow, and any sharing that you're willing to do would help us a lot. Also,
you got it. I'm happy to, guys. I'm here to support you guys in whatever way I can, and I really enjoyed this conversation today. Anything else we didn't cover you want to talk about before we wrap
I was
up?
going to say, is there something you want to plug? Any of your TV shows
sure.
right now?
I mean, you know what? There's a couple shows right now you could watch that we've made. One is on Quibi. It's called Shape of Pasta. If you can find 64 minutes in your life to watch the entire series, do it. They're less than 8-minute episodes. If you didn't know, that's what Quibi's all about. Really proud of that show. It's an unscripted show in the food world where we followed Chef Evan Funke as he learns a new shape of pasta from a real Italian nonna in every episode. It was very heartfelt.
Awesome!
Really beautifully shot. We're really proud of it.
You had me at pasta.
Oh my God, yeah. Look, we don't eat pasta in LA because carbs, but we can make shows about it. But then the other show I would say check out is Top Elf on Nickelodeon. We're going to premiere right before Thanksgiving this year, and we run the whole month of December. It's a beautiful show, really sweet, very funny, fun to watch with kids, but you don't have to be a kid to enjoy it. It is safe for believers, for the parents out there who want to find a show that they can watch with their little ones around the holidays. We are non-denominational, so we have some Jewish kids on there, and we try to be all inclusive. And it's just a really fun escape from 2020 that I think, given the fact that kids are not going to be able to go to the mall and sit on Santa's lap this year, I'm hoping that we can provide them with that experience on some level by watching Top Elf.
Absolutely.
Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, for those of you watching on YouTube, we'll put the links down in the comment section for those shows.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mike, thank you so much. I love you, brother.
Love you too,
handsome brother, you.
Oh, stop it, Christian. I really appreciate you guys taking the time.
I shall not.
It was great to meet you.
You too, gentlemen. Have a great day, and I look forward to listening to the show and seeing it on you.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Awesome, Mike. Thanks, brother. We'll see you.